Have you ever noticed that some people seem to rise faster than everyone else? Even when they are not the smartest, not the most talented, and sometimes not even the most hardworking? It almost feels unfair. You might have seen it in your school, your office, or even in your social circle. Someone quietly climbing to the top, while others struggle despite doing everything right. Most people believe success comes from honesty, hard work, and playing fair. But what if the real world doesn't actually work that way? What if there are hidden rules, unspoken laws, that quietly control who gains power and who loses it? This is exactly where the journey begins. Not with motivation, but with a shocking realization. Power is not about being good. It's about understanding how the game is really played. On a late evening in New York, a young man named Alex sat alone in his apartment, frustrated after another disappointing day at work. He had done everything he was supposed to do, met deadlines, helped his team, stayed loyal, and worked harder than most people around him. Yet somehow, promotions kept going to others. People who seemed less deserving were moving ahead, gaining recognition, and building influence. Alex couldn't understand it. What am I doing wrong? He asked himself. That night, while scrolling online, he came across a book titled The 48 Laws of Power. At first, the title felt a bit intense, almost dangerous. But something about it pulled him in. Maybe, just maybe, this book had answers no one else was willing to say out loud. As Alex started reading, the very first idea hit him like a shock. The world is not as fair as people pretend it is. There are rules of power that operate beneath the surface, and most people are completely unaware of them. The book explained that throughout history, whether in royal courts, politics, business, or everyday life, those who understood power were the ones who controlled outcomes. Not necessarily the most honest people, not the most kind, but the most aware. This didn't mean becoming manipulative or evil. It meant understanding reality instead of living in illusion. Because when you don't understand power, you unknowingly become a pawn in someone else's game. One of the first and most important lessons Alex encountered was simple, yet incredibly powerful: never outshine the master. At first, it sounded strange. Why would showing your talent be a bad thing? But as he read further, it became clear. People in positions of power often have fragile egos. If you make them feel inferior, even unintentionally, you create silent enemies. Instead of being rewarded, you may be resented. Instead of being promoted, you may be held back. The smartest individuals don't just show their abilities, they know when and how to show them. They make their superiors feel important, respected, and in control. This is not weakness, it is strategy. Because in the game of power, perception matters more than reality. That night, Alex closed the book and sat in silence. For the first time, he began to understand why things at work never made sense. It wasn't just about working hard. It was about understanding people, ego, perception, and influence. He realized that he had been playing the game blindly, assuming that effort alone would guarantee success. But the truth was far more complex. And as he looked out the window at the city lights, one thought stayed in his mind. If these laws are real, then learning them could change everything. Because power is not given, it is understood. The next evening, Alex sat down again with the book, but this time his curiosity had turned into something deeper: awareness. The first lesson had already shaken his understanding of how the world works, but now he wanted to go further. As he turned the page, he came across the next law: never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. At first, this idea felt uncomfortable, almost wrong. After all, society teaches us to trust our friends and avoid our enemies. But the book explained a reality that most people ignore. Friends can sometimes become the biggest source of betrayal, not because they are evil, but because emotions like jealousy, competition, and ego quietly exist beneath the surface. When someone close to you sees your growth, your success, or your recognition, it can trigger insecurities they may not even realize themselves. And that's when trust becomes fragile. Alex began thinking about his own life. There were moments when people he trusted the most didn't support him the way he expected, not openly against him, but subtly distant, slightly competitive, or quietly unsupportive. On the other hand, there were people he once considered rivals who, surprisingly, respected him more than his friends did. That's when the second part of the law started to make sense. Enemies, unlike friends, are often more predictable. Their intentions are clearer, their actions more direct. And when you turn an enemy into an ally, their loyalty can sometimes become stronger than that of a friend, because it is built on respect rather than emotion. This lesson wasn't about becoming paranoid. It was about becoming aware. Because in the world of power, blind trust can be dangerous. As Alex continued reading, the next law revealed something even more powerful: conceal your intentions. This idea struck him immediately because it went against everything he had been taught about honesty and transparency. But the book explained that when people know exactly what you are planning, they gain the ability to interfere, manipulate, or even stop you. When your intentions are clear, your moves become predictable. And predictability is weakness in the game of power. The most effective individuals don't reveal their full plans. They speak in ways that keep others guessing, creating a sense of mystery and control. It's not about lying. It's about not exposing everything. Alex started noticing how this played out in real life. At work, some people talk too much about their ideas, their plans, and their next moves. They shared everything openly, believing it would earn them trust or recognition. But often, those same ideas were later used by someone else, sometimes even taken credit for. Meanwhile, the people who stayed quiet, who revealed less and observed more, seemed to have more control over outcomes. They moved strategically, not emotionally. This made Alex realize something important. Information is power, and revealing too much of it can weaken your position. The deeper Alex went into these lessons, the more he understood that power is not always visible. It doesn't always come from authority, position, or loud confidence. Sometimes, it comes from silence, observation, and control. The ability to understand people without revealing yourself completely, the ability to act without exposing your full strategy. These are subtle but powerful skills. And for the first time, Alex began to feel like he was slowly learning the hidden language of influence, the one most people never even realize exists. As he closed the book for the night, one thought stayed with him. Maybe success is not just about doing more. Maybe it's about revealing less. Because in a world where everyone is trying to be seen, the real power often belongs to those who know when to stay unseen. The next night, Alex opened the book with a different mindset. He was no longer reading out of curiosity. He was reading with awareness. The lessons he had already learned were beginning to change how he observed people around him. This time, the next law caught his attention instantly. Always say less than necessary. At first, it sounded simple. Most people believe that talking more makes them look smarter, more confident, or more important. But in reality, the more you speak, the more you reveal your intentions, your emotions, your weaknesses. Words, when used carelessly, can reduce your control. Silence, on the other hand, creates mystery, authority, and influence. Alex started noticing how this played out in his daily life. In meetings, there were always a few people who spoke constantly, trying to prove their value. They explained too much, justified their decisions, and filled every silence with words. But strangely, the people who spoke less were often taken more seriously. When they did speak, everyone listened. Their words carried weight because they were rare and controlled. Alex realized that silence is not emptiness, it is presence. When you speak less, people pay more attention to what you say. And when you reveal less, people are left wondering, trying to understand you. That curiosity gives you power. As he continued reading, the next law introduced something even more critical. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. This idea hit Alex deeply because he had never thought about reputation as something so powerful. The book explained that reputation is like a shield. It protects you, builds trust, and gives you influence before you even say a word. People judge you not only by what you do, but by what they believe about you. And once a reputation is established, it becomes a powerful force that shapes how others treat you. A strong reputation can open doors, while a weak or damaged one can silently close opportunities. Alex reflected on people he knew. Some individuals were respected the moment they entered a room, not because of what they said in that moment, but because of the image they had built over time. Others struggled to be taken seriously, even when they had good ideas. That's when Alex understood something important. Reputation is not built in a day, but it can be destroyed in a moment. And once it is damaged, rebuilding it is extremely difficult. That's why powerful people protect their reputation carefully. They are aware of how they present themselves, how they act, and how they are perceived. The book also revealed another strategic layer. If you want to weaken someone else, attacking their reputation is often more effective than confronting them directly. Because once people begin to doubt someone, their influence starts to fade. This is why, throughout history, reputation has always been a central part of power struggles. Kings, leaders, and influencers have all understood that controlling perception is often more important than controlling reality. As Alex absorbed these ideas, he began to see a pattern forming. Power is not loud. It does not always announce itself. Sometimes, it is quiet, controlled, and deeply strategic. It exists in how much you say, how much you reveal, and how others perceive you. And for the first time, Alex realized that influence is not about forcing people to listen. It's about making them want to listen. That night, as he closed the book, one realization stayed in his mind. Words can give you power, but silence can multiply it. And reputation can decide your place in the game before you even begin to play. By now, Alex was no longer the same person who had first opened the book. The way he observed people, conversations, and situations had completely changed. He had started noticing patterns: who spoke too much, who revealed too much, and who quietly controlled the room without saying much at all. As he turned the next page, the following law immediately stood out: court attention at all costs. At first, it sounded aggressive, almost extreme. But the deeper he read, the more he understood the truth behind it. In a world full of noise, distraction, and competition, attention is power. If people don't notice you, they don't remember you. And if they don't remember you, you don't exist in their world. It doesn't matter how talented or capable you are. If you remain invisible, your value remains hidden. Alex began to reflect on his own behavior. For years, he believed that staying quiet, working hard, and avoiding attention would naturally lead to recognition. But reality didn't work that way. The people who advanced faster were not always the most skilled. They were the most visible. They knew how to present themselves, how to stand out, and how to create a presence that others couldn't ignore. The book explained that attention doesn't always have to come from perfection. In fact, sometimes controversy, uniqueness, or boldness can attract even more attention than playing safe. Because people are naturally drawn to what is different. The key is not to be reckless, but to be unforgettable. As Alex absorbed this idea, the next law introduced a deeper layer of power. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. This law initially felt uncomfortable, even controversial, but the explanation revealed something practical. Power is not about doing everything yourself. It is about using resources, people, and opportunities efficiently. Throughout history, powerful individuals have understood how to leverage the skills and efforts of others to build something greater. This doesn't mean exploiting people unfairly. It means understanding that collaboration, delegation, and positioning play a huge role in success. Those who try to do everything alone often burn out or stay limited, while those who understand how to direct energy achieve more with less effort. Alex started noticing this pattern at work. Some individuals were constantly busy, doing everything themselves, trying to prove their worth through effort, but they often remained stuck. Meanwhile, others focused on coordination, decision-making, and visibility. They positioned themselves as leaders rather than workers. And over time, they were the ones who gained recognition and moved ahead. This made Alex realize that effort alone is not enough. How you position your effort matters just as much. The book then revealed something even more subtle: the concept of invisible power. Not all control is obvious. Sometimes, the most powerful person in the room is not the loudest or the most visible one. It is the person who understands the flow of influence, who knows how to guide decisions without appearing forceful, and who creates outcomes without drawing unnecessary attention to themselves. This kind of power is quiet but incredibly effective. It allows a person to operate without resistance because others don't even realize they are being influenced. As Alex leaned back and thought about everything he had read, he began to understand a powerful truth. Power is not just about strength, intelligence, or effort. It is about visibility, positioning, and control. It is about knowing when to step forward and be seen, and when to step back and let others move while you guide the direction. It is about understanding that influence is not always direct. It can be subtle, strategic, and almost invisible. That night, as he looked out at the city lights, one realization stayed with him. If you want to rise, you must be seen. But if you want to truly control the game, you must learn how to be seen without revealing everything. Because real power is not just about being in the spotlight. It's about controlling where the spotlight shines. By the time Alex reached the final part of the book, he was no longer just observing the world, he was understanding it. The patterns that once felt confusing were now becoming clear. He could see how people behaved, how influence moved quietly beneath conversations, and how power was never as obvious as it appeared. The final laws he read carried a deeper message. Power is not something you chase. It is something you build through awareness, patience, and control. One of the most important ideas that stood out to him was this: always think long-term. Many people destroy their future power for short-term wins. They react emotionally, make impulsive decisions, or try to win every small battle without realizing they are losing the bigger war. But those who truly understand power remain calm, strategic, and focused on the long game. Alex realized that emotions are one of the biggest enemies of power. Anger, frustration, insecurity, and the need to prove yourself can push you into making decisions that feel right in the moment but damage your position later. The book emphasized that mastering power requires mastering yourself first. The ability to stay calm when others are emotional, to stay silent when others react, and to stay patient when others rush. This is what creates real advantage. Because when you control your emotions, you control your actions. And when you control your actions, you control your outcomes. Another powerful lesson that changed Alex's thinking was the idea of adaptability. Power is not static. It shifts depending on people, situations, and environments. Those who remain rigid often break under pressure, while those who adapt survive and grow stronger. The book explained that sometimes you must appear strong, and other times you must appear weak. Sometimes you lead from the front, and other times you influence from the background. This flexibility is what allows powerful individuals to navigate complex situations without losing control. They don't rely on one fixed identity. They adjust based on what the situation demands. As Alex closed the final pages, he sat in silence, reflecting on everything he had learned. This was not just a book. It was a completely different way of seeing the world. He understood now that power is not about dominating others or being aggressive. It is about awareness. It is about understanding human nature, controlling your own behavior, and making calculated moves instead of emotional ones. And most importantly, it is about realizing that the game is always being played, whether you are aware of it or not. And then, one final thought settled in his mind. Most people go through life believing they are in control, while unknowingly being influenced by others who understand these laws. But the moment you become aware, everything changes. You start seeing what others don't see. You start understanding what others don't understand. And slowly, without forcing anything, you begin to shift your position in the game. Because in the end, power is not about controlling the world, it's about not being controlled by it. And now the question is not whether these laws exist. The question is, will you ignore them, or will you learn to use them?